I need to tell you something that will either devastate you or liberate you, depending on how deeply you've believed the opposite. Something that changes everything about how you see yourself, your possibilities, and your future. Your past doesn't define your future. Not anymore. Not unless you let it. That person you were 5 years ago, that's not who you are today. Those mistakes you made, they're information, not identity. That failure from your 20s, it's history, not destiny. That reputation you built, it can be rebuilt. That version of yourself you've been carrying around, you can become someone completely different. Right now, you probably have a story about yourself based on your past. A story about what you're capable of and what you're not. A story about who you are and who you can never be. A story about what's possible for you and what isn't. And that story is based entirely on what happened before today. But here's what nobody tells you. The past is just data. It's not a verdict. It's not a life sentence. It's not a permanent definition of who you must be forever. It's simply information about who you were and what you did up until this moment. Nothing more. Think about the ways your past is defining your present. Maybe you failed at something once, so now you believe you're not good at that thing. Maybe you made mistakes in relationships, so now you believe you're bad at relationships. Maybe you struggled in school, so now you believe you're not smart. Maybe you had a difficult childhood, so now you believe you're damaged. Maybe you've been a certain way for so long that you believe that's just who you are. But what if none of that is true? What if you're not permanently defined by any of it? What if every single belief you have about yourself based on your past is actually just a story you've been telling yourself? A story you could change right now if you stop believing the past determines the future? Your past happened, that's a fact. But your past defining your future, that's a choice. A choice you've been making unconsciously every day by assuming that who you were is who you must continue to be. And that assumption is destroying your potential. Because every time you make a decision based on, that's just who I am, or I've never been good at that, or I always do this, or people like me can't do that, you're letting your past write your future. You're taking historical data and turning it into prophecy. You're converting temporary patterns into permanent identity. But here's the truth. You can change. Completely. Fundamentally. Dramatically. At any age. Regardless of your past. Despite your history. No matter what you've done or who you've been. You can become someone entirely different starting today. Not by denying your past. Not by pretending it didn't happen. But by refusing to let it define what happens next. By treating your past as information that informs your future without controlling it. By understanding that who you were is not a contract for who you must be. Most people spend their entire lives imprisoned by their past. They look at who they've been and conclude that's who they are. They look at what they've done and decide that determines what they can do. They look at their patterns and believe those patterns are unchangeable. They look at their history and treat it as destiny. And they die having never discovered who they could have become if they'd stopped letting the past define them. My name doesn't matter, but my past does. Because I spent 38 years believing my past defined me, believing that who I'd been determined who I could be, believing that my history was my destiny, until I discovered my past only defined me because I let it, and I could stop letting it anytime I chose. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how your past is defining your present and limiting your future. I'm going to reveal why that definition is a choice, not a fact. I'm going to share what happened when I stopped letting my past determine my future. And most importantly, I'm going to give you the exact framework to break free from your past and create a future that's completely different from your history. But I need you to be ready for something uncomfortable. Recognizing that your past doesn't define you means recognizing that you've been choosing limitation, that you've been using your history as an excuse. that you could have been someone different all along but chose to stay the same. That admission is painful. Are you ready for that pain? Are you ready to stop letting your past define you? Are you ready to become someone completely different? Then let's begin. Because your past is history, your future is unwritten, and you're the only one who can decide whether history repeats or whether something entirely new begins. Let me take you to the moment I realized my past was defining me in ways I'd never consciously chosen. I was 38 years old, sitting across from a career counselor after losing my job. She asked me a simple question that shattered everything. If you could do any kind of work with no constraints based on your past experience, what would you want to do? I stared at her blankly, because I couldn't answer that question without constraints based on my past experience. My entire sense of what was possible for me was defined by what I'd already done. I said, I can't answer that. I'm a systems administrator. That's what I've always done. That's what I'm qualified for. That's who I am. She looked at me and said something I'll never forget. You're not a systems administrator. You're a person who has worked as a systems administrator. Those are completely different things. That distinction broke something open, because I'd been treating my professional history as my permanent identity. I wasn't someone who had done systems administration. I was a systems administrator. That was who I was. And being that meant I could only continue being that. But it wasn't just my career. As I sat there, I saw how completely my past was defining every aspect of my life. Let me show you the specific ways my past had become my prison. Because I guarantee your past is imprisoning you in many of the same ways. Prison 1, past performance as permanent capability. I had failed at public speaking in college, bombed a presentation, got anxiety, avoided public speaking ever since. And I'd concluded, I'm not good at public speaking. That's just not something I can do. 20 years later, I was still defining my public speaking capability by a single failure at 19. I wasn't not good at public speaking. I had been not good at it once, 2 decades ago. But I'd turned that temporary performance into permanent identity. This pattern extended everywhere. Failed at learning guitar at 25. I'm not musical. Struggled with writing in school. I'm not a writer. Bad at math in high school. I'm not good with numbers. Every past struggle had become a permanent limitation. Prison 2, past mistakes as character definitions. I had made selfish decisions in my 20s, hurt people, been thoughtless, done things I regretted, and I'd concluded, I'm a selfish person. That's just who I am at my core. But I wasn't currently being selfish. I'd been selfish 15 years ago, yet I was still carrying that past behavior as my present identity. I'd frozen myself at my worst moments and decided those moments defined me forever. This pattern was everywhere. Made bad financial decisions in my 20s, I'm bad with money. Struggled with addiction years ago, I'm an addict. Had difficult relationships in the past, I'm bad at relationships. Every past mistake had become eternal character. Prison 3, past patterns as unchangeable nature. I had been shy as a child and teenager, introverted, uncomfortable in social situations. And I'd concluded, I'm just a shy person, that's my nature. But shyness wasn't my nature. It was a pattern I'd developed in response to specific circumstances in my childhood, circumstances that no longer existed. Yet I was still performing shyness at 38 because I'd performed it at 8. This pattern defined everything. Been disorganized in the past? I'm just not an organized person. Been impatient previously? I'm just an impatient person. Been anxious before? I'm just an anxious person. Every past pattern had become unchangeable nature. Prison 4, past identity as permanent self. I had been the quiet one in my family, the tech guy among my friends, the reliable one at work. These identities had formed over years based on past behavior, and I'd concluded, those are who I am. But those weren't who I was. Those were roles I'd been performing, roles that others expected and I delivered, yet I'd internalized those roles as my essential self. I couldn't imagine being anything other than quiet, tech-focused, and reliable because that's who I'd been. This pattern was totalizing. Every identity I'd ever taken on, son, employee, friend, introvert, tech person, had become permanent. I wasn't performing these roles. I was these roles. And I couldn't imagine being anything different. Prison 5, past failures as future predictions. I had tried to start a business in my early 30s. It failed within a year, lost money, felt embarrassed, and I'd concluded, entrepreneurship isn't for me. I tried it and failed. That's not my path. But that failure didn't mean entrepreneurship wasn't for me. It meant that particular business, at that particular time, with that particular approach, didn't work. It was data about one attempt, not a verdict about all future attempts. This pattern infected everything. Every past failure became a prediction that I'd fail again if I tried. Failed at dating in my 20s? I'll probably fail at dating now. Failed at a creative project once? I'm not creative. Failed at learning something once? I can't learn that. Past failure had become future certainty. Prison 6, past circumstances as permanent conditions. I grew up in a working class family. Didn't have access to certain opportunities, didn't develop certain skills. And I'd concluded, people like me don't do X. That's for people from different backgrounds. But my past circumstances weren't my present circumstances. I was an adult with autonomy, yet I was still living as if the limitations of my childhood were permanent limitations on my adulthood. This pattern was everywhere. Didn't go to an elite college. I can't compete with people who did. Didn't have early advantages. I'm always starting behind. Came from a certain background. Certain things just aren't for people like me. Past circumstances had become present prison. Prison 7, past reputation as fixed reality. Over the years, I'd built a reputation as the tech guy. Reliable, technical. Not creative, not strategic, just technical. And I'd concluded, that's how people see me. I can't change that reputation. That's who I am to them. But reputation isn't fixed. It's based on recent behavior. I could change my reputation by consistently behaving differently, yet I was performing my reputation because I believed it was permanent. This pattern controlled everything. Been seen as quiet. People won't take me seriously if I try to be more vocal. Been seen as technical. People won't see me as strategic. Been seen as reliable but not innovative. I can't suddenly become the innovative person. Past reputation had become permanent casting. Prison 8, past trauma as permanent damage. I had experienced difficult things in my past. Loss, failure, hurt. And I'd concluded, I'm damaged by these experiences. They've permanently affected who I can be. But trauma didn't have to be permanent damage. Trauma was something that happened. How it affected me going forward was something I had agency over. Yet I was treating trauma as permanent impairment rather than as experience I could heal from and grow beyond. These 8 prisons, past performance as permanent capability, past mistakes as character, past patterns as nature, past identity as permanent self, past failures as predictions, past circumstances as conditions, past reputation as reality, past trauma as damage had defined my entire life. Sitting across from that career counselor at 38, I saw all of this clearly for the first time. My entire sense of who I was and what was possible for me was based on who I'd been and what had happened to me. I wasn't living in the present. I was living in the past, extended forward. I wasn't defining myself. My history was defining me, and I'd accepted that definition as if it were permanent truth rather than temporary pattern. And I realized, if I continued letting my past define me, my future would just be my past repeated. I'd be the same person at 48 that I was at 38 that I'd been at 28. My past would continue determining my present, which would determine my future, which would all be the same. But sitting there, I also realized something else. I could choose differently. I could stop letting my past define me. I could treat my history as information rather than identity. I could become someone completely different starting today. That realization was the beginning of breaking free from my past. The day after my conversation with the career counselor, I did something radical. I gave myself permission to ignore my past when thinking about my future. I got a notebook and wrote at the top, if my past doesn't define me, who could I become? And I wrote, without limiting myself based on past performance, past identity, past failures, past anything, just who I could become if I started today as someone with no history. I could become confident and articulate in front of audiences. I could become creative and strategic instead of just technical. I could become organized and disciplined. I could become entrepreneurial and successful at business. I could become someone who builds deep, healthy relationships. I could become financially successful. I could become physically fit. I could become anything. Reading this list felt both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it showed me possibilities I'd been denying myself. Terrifying because it meant admitting I'd been choosing limitation all along. But I didn't dismiss it. I chose one area to test whether I could actually become someone different: public speaking. I had defined myself as not good at public speaking based on a failure at 19. I was now 38. That was 19 years of avoiding something based on one bad experience 2 decades ago. What if that definition was wrong? So I did something I'd avoided for 19 years. I joined Toastmasters, a public speaking club where I would have to speak in front of people regularly. Despite my I'm not good at public speaking identity, my first speech was terrifying. Every instinct told me, this is who you are, you're not good at this will be awful, your past will repeat. But I gave the speech anyway, and it wasn't great, but it also wasn't catastrophic. It was just a mediocre first speech by a beginner. Not evidence that I was permanently not good at public speaking, just evidence that I was currently not practiced at public speaking. I gave another speech 2 weeks later, slightly better. Another 2 weeks after that, better still. After 6 months and 12 speeches, I was competent. After a year and 24 speeches, I was good. After 2 years, I was confident and effective speaking in front of groups. I had completely redefined my capability in public speaking, not by denying my past failure, but by refusing to let it define my future capability. By treating not good at public speaking at 19 as historical data, not permanent identity. That experience showed me the pattern. My past only defined me if I let it, and I could choose to let my present actions define me instead. So I started systematically challenging every way my past was defining me. Redefinition 2, past mistakes don't define current character. I had been selfish in my 20s, hurt people, made thoughtless choices. I'd been carrying those mistakes as proof that I'm a selfish person. But was I currently being selfish? I examined my recent behavior honestly. For the past 5 years, I'd been consistently considerate, thoughtful, generous. My recent actions didn't match my self-definition. I was performing a character based on who I'd been 15 years ago, not who I'd become. So I chose a new definition. I made selfish choices in my 20s. I've learned from those mistakes and am now someone who prioritizes others' well-being. This wasn't denying my past, it was refusing to let my past be my present. Same history, different definition. Redefinition. 3. Past patterns don't have to be permanent nature. I had been shy my entire life. I defined it as my nature. But shyness wasn't nature, it was a learned pattern. And learned patterns can be unlearned. I started deliberately doing things shy people don't do, initiating conversations with strangers, attending events alone, speaking up in groups, putting myself in social situations that required not being shy. It was uncomfortable. Every time my brain told me, this isn't who you are, you're the shy one, this feels wrong. But I did it anyway, repeatedly, consistently, for months. And slowly, the shyness decreased. Not because my nature changed, but because I practiced different behavior until it became my new pattern. After a year, people who met me described me as outgoing. Not because I was pretending, but because I'd become someone different through practice. Redefinition. 4. Past identity can be completely changed. I had been the tech guy. That was my entire professional identity. But I didn't want to be just the tech guy. I wanted to be strategic, creative, business-focused. I wanted a different identity. So I stopped performing the tech guy identity. I started sharing strategic ideas in meetings. I volunteered for business projects outside my technical expertise. I stopped defining myself in introductions as a tech person. I practiced a different identity. People were confused at first. This isn't who you've been. Exactly. It wasn't who I'd been. It was who I was becoming. And after consistently performing this new identity for a year, people started seeing me differently. The tech guy identity faded. The strategic business person identity emerged. Same person, different identity. Because identity isn't fixed, it's performed. And I could perform differently. Redefinition. 5. Past failures don't predict future outcomes. I had failed at entrepreneurship once. I'd treated that failure as prediction that I'd fail again. But what if it wasn't? What if that failure was just information about what didn't work? Information I could use to try differently? What if past failure made future success more likely because I'd learned what to avoid? So I started another business. A different type of business, with different approach, using lessons from the first failure. And this one worked. Not perfectly, but viably. It grew, it succeeded. My past failure didn't predict my future outcome. It informed my future approach. Same person, different result. Because I stopped letting past failure define future possibility. Redefinition 6. Past circumstances don't limit present opportunities. I'd grown up working class without certain advantages. I'd been using that history as explanation for why certain things weren't available to me. People like me don't do that. But I wasn't a kid from a working class family anymore. I was an adult with agency. My childhood circumstances had shaped my past. They didn't have to shape my future unless I let them. So I started attempting things I told myself were not for people like me. Applied for opportunities I thought were for people from different backgrounds. Pursued goals I'd considered out of reach. Stopped using my past circumstances as present limitation. Some attempts failed, but some succeeded. And the successes proved my past circumstances were historical fact, not present limitation. Redefinition 7. Past reputation can be rebuilt. I had a reputation as technical, but not creative or strategic. I'd been treating that reputation as fixed, but I could rebuild it through consistent, different behavior. So I consistently behaved differently. Every meeting, I shared creative ideas. Every project, I contributed strategically. Every interaction, I demonstrated capabilities different from my reputation. For months, consistently. And slowly, my reputation changed. People started seeing me as creative and strategic, not just technical. Not because I convinced them with words, but because I showed them consistently with behavior. Reputation isn't permanent. It's based on recent evidence. I created new evidence. Redefinition 8. Past trauma can be healed, not just endured. I'd experienced difficult things. I'd been treating them as permanent damage. I'm damaged by these experiences. But with therapy and intentional work, I learned trauma happened. But I didn't have to stay traumatized forever. I could heal. I could grow beyond. I could become someone who had experienced trauma and integrated it, rather than someone defined by trauma. This was the hardest work, but it was possible. Through therapy, through processing, through deliberate healing, I moved from I am damaged to I experienced damage and I am healing. Same history, different relationship to it. After 3 years of systematically redefining myself, changing capabilities, character, self-definition, patterns, identity, relationship to failure, relationship to circumstances, reputation, and relationship to trauma, my life was completely different. Not because my past changed, but because I stopped letting my past define my present and future. I treated history as information rather than identity. I let my present actions create my present identity instead of letting past actions determine it. And I discovered I wasn't who I thought I was. I was who I was becoming through present choice and action. After breaking free from my past definition, I developed what I call the past breaking framework. This is the system that helps you identify how your past is defining you and gives you the tools to redefine yourself based on present choice instead of historical pattern. The framework has 7 components, and each one is essential. Component 1, the definition audit. You need to identify specifically how your past is defining your present. Most people don't realize the extent to which history is limiting them. The practice. Complete these prompts multiple times. I believe I'm not good at X because of this past experience. Example. I believe I'm not good at public speaking because I failed at a presentation in college. I believe I'm a certain type of person because of these past actions. Example. I believe I'm a selfish person because I made selfish choices in my 20s. I can't do X because of this aspect of my past. Example, I can't be entrepreneurial because I came from a working class background. I am X because I've always been X. Example, I am shy because I've always been shy. Write at least 15 examples. Get all the ways your past is defining you visible. My audit revealed 21 ways my past was limiting my present and future. 21 areas where I'd converted history into identity. Component 2, the truth testing. For each way your past is defining you, you need to test whether it's actually true in the present or just a historical pattern you're continuing. The practice. For each definition from your audit, ask, is this currently true based on recent evidence? Or am I assuming it's true based on old evidence? If I examined only the last 6 months, would this definition still apply? Am I this way because I currently am, or because I've always been and I'm continuing the pattern? Example, I'm not good at public speaking. Truth test. Based on recent evidence, I haven't attempted public speaking recently. Based on last 6 months, no data because I've avoided it. Currently this way, or continuing pattern. Continuing pattern from 19 years ago. Conclusion. This definition is based on old evidence I'm treating as permanent truth. It might not be currently true. This test reveals which definitions are based on actual present reality versus historical assumption. For most of my 21 definitions, the truth test revealed they were based on old evidence, not current reality. I was assuming permanence where none existed. Component 3, the redefinition permission. You need to give yourself explicit permission to become someone different from who you've been. This sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. The practice. For each limiting definition, write a permission statement. My past is history, not destiny. I give myself permission to become someone different from who I've been. I give myself permission to be good at X, even though I wasn't before. I give myself permission to change my character, patterns, identity, and capabilities starting today. Example, I give myself permission to become good at public speaking, even though I failed at it once 19 years ago. My past performance doesn't determine my future capability. These permission statements break the unconscious rule that you must remain who you've been. They explicitly authorize change. Component 4, the present-based identity. You need to define yourself based on present actions and choices, not historical patterns. The practice, create present identity statements based on who you're choosing to be now, not who you've been. I am currently choosing to be X. This is who I am today based on today's actions. Example, I am currently choosing to be someone who practices public speaking regularly. This is who I am today, regardless of who I was at 19. Update these statements regularly based on current behavior. Let your present actions define you instead of past patterns. I created present identity statements for all areas I was redefining. I updated them monthly based on current behavior. This kept my identity based on present choice instead of historical pattern. Component 5, the pattern interruption practice. You need to deliberately do things that contradict your past-based definitions. This proves those definitions aren't fixed. The practice. For each limiting definition, identify an action that contradicts it. My past says I'm X. To prove I'm not permanently X, I will do Y, which contradicts X. Example, my past says I'm not good at public speaking. To prove I'm not permanently bad at it, I will give one speech per month for 6 months. Then do those actions consistently. Each contradictory action weakens the past-based definition and strengthens your present-based redefinition. I created contradictory actions for all my limiting definitions. Gave speeches to contradict not good at public speaking. Made generous choices to contradict selfish person. Initiated social interactions to contradict shy. Each action weakened my selfish person. Past-based identity. Component 6, the evidence collection. As you redefine yourself through present action, you need to collect evidence of your new identity. This proves change is happening. The practice, keep a redefinition journal. Document. Old definition based on past, what you used to believe about yourself. New action that contradicts it, what you did that contradicts the old definition. Result, what happened when you acted differently. New evidence, what this proves about your current capability, identity. Example, old, not good at public speaking. New action, gave presentation at work. Result, went well, received positive feedback. New evidence, I am capable of effective public speaking when I practice. This collection creates a new evidence base for your identity. Instead of defining yourself by old evidence, you define yourself by accumulating new evidence. My redefinition journal documented 3 years of new evidence, hundreds of entries showing me becoming someone different through present action. Component 7, the protective story release. You need to recognize that some past-based definitions are protective stories you've been hiding behind, and you need to release them. The practice, for definitions that are protecting you from something, identify what this past-based definition protects me from, the risk, fear, or difficulty I avoid by staying defined by my past, what it costs me, the growth, capability, or life I sacrifice for that protection. Example, I'm not good at public speaking protects me from risk of failing publicly, discomfort of vulnerability, fear of judgment. Costs me, career opportunities, influence, ability to share ideas broadly. Then make an explicit choice. I release this protective story. I accept the risk it was protecting me from. I will face X fear in exchange for Y possibility. This release breaks the unconscious bargain where you accept limitation in exchange for protection. These 7 components create a complete system for identifying how your past is defining you, testing whether those definitions are still true, giving yourself permission to change, redefining yourself through present action, collecting new evidence, and releasing protective stories. Now you understand how to break free from your past definition. Let me give you the exact action plan to start redefining yourself based on present choice instead of historical pattern. Action 1. Complete your definition audit this week. Use all 4 prompts to identify at least 15 ways your past is defining you. Write specific examples. Make all the limiting definitions visible. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Action 2. Choose your most limiting definition. From your audit, identify which past-based definition is limiting you most significantly. Which belief about yourself based on your past is costing you the most opportunity, growth, or fulfillment? This is your priority redefinition. Action 3. Apply the truth test to that definition. Ask the 3 questions. Is this currently true, or am I assuming it based on old evidence? Based only on the last 6 months, does this apply? Am I currently this way, or continuing an old pattern? Write honest answers. Most limiting definitions fail the truth test. Action 4. Write your permission statement. For your priority definition, write explicitly. My past is history, not destiny. I give myself permission to become different from who I've been. I give myself permission to be, do X, even though I didn't before. Say it out loud. Feel the shift from past determined to present chosen. Action 5. Create your present identity statement. Based on who you're choosing to be now, write, I am currently choosing to be X. This is who I am today based on today's choices. Make it present tense and choice-based, not past tense and fate-based. Action 6. Identify your pattern interruption action. What specific action contradicts your limiting past-based definition? What could you do this week that proves you're not permanently who you've been? Schedule it. Take 1 action this week that contradicts your past-based identity. Action 7. Take that contradictory action despite fear. Your brain will tell you this isn't who you are. Your past will feel like it's defining you. Do the action anyway. Prove to yourself that your past doesn't control your present. 1 contradictory action this week. Action 8. Start your redefinition journal. Get a notebook. Title it Redefinition Journal. After taking your contradictory action, document old definition, new action, result, new evidence. This begins creating your new evidence base for who you are. Action 9. Identify 1 protective story. Choose 1 past-based definition that's protecting you from something. Complete. This definition protects me from X, it costs me Y. Then write, I release this protective story. I accept X risk for Y possibility. Release 1 protective definition. Update your identity weekly. Every Sunday review. How did I act this week? Based on this week's actions, who am I currently choosing to be? Update your present identity statement based on current behavior. Keep your identity based on present actions, not past patterns. Action 11. Practice contradicting 1 definition daily. For your priority limiting definition, do 1 small thing daily that contradicts it. If your past says you're not creative, spend 15 minutes doing something creative daily. If your past says you're lazy, do something productive daily. Build new patterns through daily contradictory action. Action 12. Tell 1 person about your redefinition. Share with someone, I've been defining myself based on my past as X, but that's not who I am anymore. I'm becoming Y through present choice. Saying it out loud to another person makes the redefinition real. Action 13. Collect evidence intentionally. Every time you act in ways that contradict your past-based definitions, notice it, document it. Collect evidence of who you're becoming. Build a case against your past being your present. Accumulate new data about yourself. Action 14. Schedule your monthly redefinition review. Block 1 hour monthly. Review. What past-based definitions am I still carrying? What new evidence have I created? Who am I becoming through present action? What's my next priority? Redefinition. This prevents backsliding into past-based identity. Action 15. Commit to present-based identity. Right. I commit to defining myself based on present choice, not past pattern. I commit to letting my current actions create my current identity. I commit to treating my past as information, not limitation. I commit to becoming someone different through consistent present choice. My past is history. My future is unwritten. I write it through today's actions. Sign it, date it. Now some of you are thinking, but my past really did happen. I really did fail at those things. I really do have those limitations. Isn't ignoring my past just denial? Here's my answer. I'm not suggesting you ignore or deny your past. I'm suggesting you stop letting your past determine your future. Your past happened. That's data. But that data doesn't have to define your capability or identity forever unless you choose to let it. Acknowledging your past while refusing to be limited by it isn't denial, it's growth. Let me tell you where I am now, 6 years after I stopped letting my past define me. I'm 44 years old. I speak publicly, regularly to audiences of hundreds. I run a successful business after my first one failed. I'm confident in social situations after decades of shyness. I'm financially successful after growing up poor. I'm strategic and creative professionally after years of being just the tech guy. I have healthy relationships after making mistakes in past ones. I've healed from trauma that I thought would damage me forever. None of this would be possible if I'd kept letting my past define me. All of it required me to refuse my history's verdict and redefine myself through present action. 6 years ago, I was 38 and completely defined by my past. Every limitation I had was based on who I'd been. Every belief about my capabilities was based on past performance. Every aspect of my identity was based on historical pattern. My past was my present extended forward. Today, I'm 44 and defined by my present choices. I'm not who I was. I'm who I'm becoming through today's actions. My past is information I learned from. It's not identity I'm limited by. Here's what I learned. Your past only defines you if you let it. And most people let it. They look at who they've been and conclude that's who they are. They look at past failures and believe those failures predict future outcomes. They look at historical patterns and treat them as unchangeable nature. They look at their mistakes and believe those mistakes define their character. And they stay exactly who they've been for their entire lives. Not because they can't change, but because they believe they can't change. They treat their past as destiny rather than as history. 6 years ago, I believed my past defined me. I thought who I'd been determined who I could be. I treated every past failure, mistake, and limitation as permanent. And that belief kept me exactly as I'd always been. Today, I know my past is just data, information about who I was and what I did up until any given moment. That data informs my present, but it doesn't control my present unless I let it. Right now, you're probably letting your past define you. You have beliefs about yourself based on who you've been. You have conclusions about your capabilities based on past performance. You have an identity based on historical patterns, and all of that is limiting what you attempt, what you believe is possible, and who you become. But your past doesn't have to define your future. Not anymore. Not unless you choose to let it. You're not permanently who you've been. You're not limited by past failures. You're not bound by historical patterns. You're not defined by past mistakes. You're not imprisoned by childhood circumstances. You're not stuck with old reputation. You're not damaged beyond healing. You're simply someone who has been certain ways and done certain things up until today. And starting today, you can be different ways and do different things, not by denying your past, but by refusing to let your past be your present. Yes, your history happened. Yes, you made those mistakes. Yes, you failed at those things. Yes, you developed those patterns. Yes, you experienced those difficulties. All of that is true. All of that is permanent history. But none of it is permanent identity. None of it is unchangeable destiny. None of it is eternal limitation. It's all just information about who you were. And who you were doesn't have to be who you are. 6 years ago, I was defined by my past. Today, I'm defined by my present choices. Same history, completely different future. Because I stopped letting history determine destiny. Your past is history. Your future is unwritten. And every day, you choose whether history repeats or whether something new begins. Stop letting your past define you. Start defining yourself through present choice. Who you've been is who you've been. Who you are is who you're choosing to be right now. Who you'll become is who you choose to become through consistent present action. Your past doesn't define your future anymore, unless you let it. Stop letting it. Start now.